Artlist.io.
Hello, and welcome to Rainbow Dreamcatcher,
The Love Podcast.
My name is Nilla, and I am a relationship coach and marriage and family therapist. I travel the world helping individuals learn the things they need to have happy and healthy relationships.
And I'm Big Sexy, her loving husband and co-host, here to provide levity.
Levity, that means the jokes. Sometimes it's funny, sometimes,
I made no promise.
Usually pretty funny, I gotta say. I generally laugh or cringe.
Yeah, that's
so
be my epitaph. He made you laugh, he made you cringe.
Yeah, it's okay. So hopefully this will be more of a laughy versus cringy, but I don't know because the topic we're talking about is actually kind of cringy today.
Yeah.
Today we are going to talk about how to heal from toxic relationships. The reason we're talking about this is because I stumbled across, I guess I and 400 million other folks stumbled across a TikTok that started February 14th.
Happy Valentine's
Happy
Day.
Valentine. Well, not for this person. It was not a happy Valentine's Day for this person.
Not at all.
I'm talking about Miss Risa Tisa on TikTok. If you haven't seen this TikTok, be prepared. It is an 8-hour long, 52-part series on TikTok that started on February 14th. It wrapped up, I don't know, maybe like a couple weeks ago. But
tomorrow, it feels like.
Yeah, right? But it is the epic tale of one young woman's journey through meeting, falling in love with, dating, and marrying, and then ultimately divorcing a pathological liar.
Insanity.
After a what I can only describe as a pandemic relationship.
Yeah. I mean that was one thing that as I was reviewing it, I was caught by the fact that it was over the pandemic, which gave me a little bit of okay, yeah, I can see how that can kind of blossom into the madness that it was.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because I think a lot of folks have pandemic ships, and as the world opens up and as the world kind of has gone back to normal in most places, a lot of times those relationships suddenly are under a huge glaring scrutiny that they weren't before because it was just you and me stuck in a room together.
Right.
And you and me out in the world can be a very different experience, particularly for Miss Risa Tisa. So not to go over, we're not going to give you all 8 hours. No. But we should give at least some
a highlight summary, if you will.
A highlight summary, if you will. So they met on actually 2 different dating apps. Apparently, they matched on 2 different dating apps.
Right.
Now, here was the first red flag.
The first of apparently many that Madam Risa Tisa just ignored.
Well, and we'll talk about that.
So she
did ignore it.
She said
she
it
did
herself,
ignore it, but we'll talk about kind of the structure that
right,
how that happens, right? But at the time, it was something that was just kind of cute and funny. This person that she met and ultimately married had 2 different names on these 2 different profiles. And so they thought it was just hilarious that they had matched on these 2 different, spaces, even though the names were different. Which, I could kind of see, again, early in relationship, plausible explanations. Yeah. There are a lot of people online that have aliases. Let's be for real. My government is not necessarily out there. I mean, it is, but
to be fair, like my name is Big Sexy. I wasn't born with that.
Right. Exactly. Right. So, that someone would have different names or, different aliases, Finstagrams. These things they're just now a part of our world. So I'm not too down on Risa Tisa about that particular point because I can see it. I can understand it.
Right.
And as it happens, these things just happen super quickly. So she had a flat tire on her first date. And she said, if you believe in a higher power, which is, not necessarily my belief structure, but if you believe in higher power, she said this was God trying to tell her to not ever talk to this person. But she did. She called this person and he came in like a hero. Like,
the white knight syndrome.
Right. Came in, took care of everything, made sure she got home safely, very gentlemanly. I mean, the kind of like relationship that you would want to see. Like, if something happened to me, I would want you not to be like, oh, well, too bad.
Oh, man. Let me know how to turn it out.
Let me know when you make it home. When's the tow truck getting there?
You got AAA, right?
Right. Yeah. So I can see the initial appeal. Then, of course, they're dating. It may be for some of us a long time to remember, but those early days of relationship, I mean, you're just completely taken in by the other person, right?
Yeah.
Like
and everybody's presenting their best self.
It's intoxicating. It's fun. You really want to get to know the person. You spend passionate. A lot of time together. It's passionate. So now just imagine that you're having all these wonderful, feel good, new relationship energy emotions, and the world shuts down.
Ugh.
Would you want to be shut away from that person? No, of course not. And neither did Reese Teaser, right? So I understand how the situationship happened. I get it. Now, here's the thing that this person did that really kind of built the facade and built the world, was continuing on that hero complex. Once the pandemic happened, he started taking over bills. He started helping and providing support.
They decided to rock out the pandemic together.
They decided they're going to rock it out together.
And, in the beginning stage of the pandemic, we thought it would be a few weeks.
At most.
Some months, maybe at most 3 or 4 months. So you think you're going to rock it out with this person for a little while. Then we'll spend time to get to know each other. And then the world will go back to normal. And then we'll see where that goes.
Right. Yeah. So, again, all very understandable. This is why I think this series was so popular. And by the way, you guys, when I say popular, I was not joking when I said 1 of 400 million.
Over 400 million views.
Since February 14th, it has blown up to over 4 million views. She now has something like 4 million subscribers or 5 million subscribers that just insane. Wanted to follow her journey. And I hope that we get to see, and not that she has to exploit all parts of her life, but I do hope that we get to see some of the healing of that. Of the aftermath, right?
She looks like she's healing on the different shows I see now.
Well, that can be deceptive.
I know. It's an 8-minute clip.
It's an 8-minute clip on TV. Listen, everybody feels good on TV. Of fame. Like it feels really good. I got my hair done. My makeup's getting done. It's beautiful.
Right.
All this, it's really fun. And losing someone that you love is always really difficult.
Right.
Losing someone that you love and finding out that the person that you love never existed is devastating.
Right.
It is crushing. And I think, unfortunately, when you are in a toxic relationship like this, unfortunately, Risa Tisa was in, fortunately, for only 5 months. Thank goodness she got it in 5 months. Some people are stuck in these things for years, for lifetimes. Some people never get out of these toxic relationships. So good for you in getting out soon. But also, like, it's a hard process. It's a healing process, right? It's a lot of times the things that have taken place in the relationship, because there's so much lying, you have to go back and piece together what actually happened.
What's the reality of it?
What is the actual reality? After you piece that together, oftentimes, at least in my experience and working with a lot of different folks around toxic relationship, a lot of times you think the worst of the worst. You don't actually find out the worst until much later, right? Like it's like, this one thing that blew the whole thing apart.
Isn't that something they say that once there's a crack in the dam, that once it's been realized
Mm-hmm.
Oh well, here's everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Here's all the madness and all the craziness. Since you know this little bit,
mm-hmm.
here's the flood of horrible shit that was goings ons.
Kind of. I think once people start to, well, so here's the thing. And I think, not that I can speak for Reese Tisa, and I'm not going to speak for Reese Tisa. She is speaking very well for herself, and I'm super happy to see that she's out and doing that. But I would also say that folks that have been in toxic relationships at some point, not that it is their fault, it's not a matter of blame, but it is important as a part of the healing process to actually have some self-reflection about why I stayed and allowed myself to overlook all of these various different red flags. And, in that sense, this tragedy can really become an opportunity, right? I would suggest to anybody in this situation, like, I don't know how you've healed from toxic relations. Well, let me stop. Let me ask this. So I've been in a toxic relationship.
Right.
Folks who have known me for many years, you'd have to have known me for a long, long time at this point, thankfully. But do know that I had a very, very toxic relationship, and there's no reason to get into the details. It is long over. I have healed from that situation, but it was a long, hard battle to get out of that relationship and then to heal from that relationship. So I've had toxic relationships. Have you been in toxic relationships? I'm really curious about that. Have you ever been with anybody that was like a pathological liar?
Not a pathological liar, but I've been in
or just a liar. I don't know. What's the difference? No, I guess the difference is the extremes.
The extremity of lying. Yeah. Not really. I was in a toxic friendship.
Oh, interesting.
So kind of a relationship. I mean,
that is a relationship.
It was friends with benefits.
Okay, so that's a situationship at least,
right? That was toxic. I mean, I can look back on it now.
So what made it toxic? I'm so curious now. I don't know that I'm trying to figure out who is this. You don't have to tell me on air, but you have to tell me off air.
Yeah. You'll figure it out. So it started off, this person was struggling with drug addiction.
Okay, I already know.
And alcoholism.
Okay.
And in my younger days, I was very much, the Captain Save 'em, and I would go in, and so I wanted to help this person, and in that entanglement, got caught up in a relationship that I was not actively trying to be in, if you will. Okay. But I also wasn't doing anything to step out of it. I wasn't abandoning somebody, and I wasn't leaving it alone. There were benefits of it that I didn't want to lose.
Okay.
But there were personal aspects of it that were draining and very, very difficult to deal with in that relationship. But that's probably the main one. I wouldn't call any of the other relationships toxic. They just weren't great.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, fair enough. And honestly, to be fair. Yeah, that's the thing. To be fair, that's the only toxic relationship like that I've been in. So fortunately, it did not become a pattern, thankfully. But it is a good opportunity to start to look at patterns, because the thing that I learned in my healing process, and the thing that I've helped other folks to start to recognize, is that these things actually really start in childhood. And it starts about how we learn to navigate safety in relationships, if that makes sense. And so this is a great opportunity to start to understand just kind of the operating system that sometimes we're handed when we're kids, that we just automatically run as adults and don't recognize that we're running those operating systems, right?
Okay.
Like, for example, how we deal with difficulties and problems, right? If I have had a childhood that was either, and I'm not talking about nobody's childhood in particular, y'all. This is now general. I'm not trying to talk about Reese Teese's family or nothing, right? So just to be clear, this is just general information. If you grew up in a toxic family, or if you grew up in a family that has like a kind of an aspect of withdrawal, like a withdrawal of love, a withdrawal of affection, it really messes with a kid's sense of safety. And so kids, because they are brilliant and resilient and wonderful, they create these strategies
right.
for how to navigate the unsafe adults in their world, right?
Okay.
So some people are the kid that says, I'm just going to run to my room and I'm going to hide. And when the argument stops, or when mom gets sober, or when, they realize I haven't been home for 12 hours, like whatever it is, right? Then it'll be fine. And those are the people that really get very invested in adult relationships and making sure that the relationship is fine, even when it's not fine, right? They will find themselves bending into pretzels to make sure that whatever happens, however not okay it gets, this gonna be okay. We gonna be okay. We just gotta figure out how to get back to okay, right? Now that's one way that folks do that.
Okay.
That's the way we maybe call like a passive pattern. Now other folks take a different tactic. And this is the aggressive pattern. Sometimes these are folks that might have eating disorders, substance abuse, later on in life, or even in childhood. These are folks who really need to have a lot of control. They were very controlled as children.
Okay.
And often that can come out as aggressive expression. Yeah, right. So now imagine that. I heard this analogy recently. It's a really great analogy for how we navigate these different relationships. So back in the 90s, I remember those very first car, right? And it was so busted. I think I literally gave my aunt $1 for this car. Every morning I reattached the bumper.
Oh, wow.
And drove it to work very slowly and carefully, praying that the bumper did not fall off, right? I mean, it was literally just like nuts and bolts and just kind of like shaking along the highway and just hoping it didn't fall apart.
Right.
Which it did on a regular basis. Right. Quite literally, I would stop and pull over just to make sure that the bumper was still somewhat attached, or maybe occasionally reattached. So we used to call that the hoopty, right? That was the
hoopty.
I got the hoopty, right? So so I had this hoopty. Now,
I'm not hoopty.
So here's the thing about the hoopty. You understand the hoopty is temporary. You understand that the hoopty is not going to get you anywhere long term, right? I'm not taking a road trip in this hoopty. I'm not driving it to, cross country. But if I'm in a hoopty kind of relationship, right? Let's see, I get into this hoopty relationship. If I'm passive, right, I'm just going to magically keep driving this. And no matter how it breaks down, no matter what fender comes off, I have just decided that this is my hoopty. There is no other car for me. I can't afford no other car. There is no other car coming. There's no other car ever going to be made for me. This is the only thing I got. So I'm just going to pretend like it's the greatest thing I've ever had. And when the air conditioning breaks down, I'm just going to pretend like I like being hot. Right? Like that's kind of how I do that. Right? Then there's the aggressive side of that. So those kids that learned how to take control, often in maladaptive ways, do that also in their relationships when they're adults, right? So now this person is in the hoopty. And this time, when the air conditioning breaks down or when the transmission breaks down, they decide they're going to shame the car into getting better.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Look at this transmission. You see yourself knocking around here. Nobody else's transmission is knocking around here. Why don't you get your transmission together? But in neither case will they do anything that actually changes the relationship or gets them into a different car. Right?
Right.
And that's the pattern that holds people there. And that's the pattern that starts in childhood. That's why it can be so difficult to heal. And that's why folks can find themselves in the same kind of toxic relationships over and over and over again. I used to call it the same relationship, same dude, different face.
Right.
Same person, same chick, different face. Right? But it's the same relationship story over and over and over again. If you find that you're stuck in that same kind of relationship story over and over again, where I keep seeing the same things, the answer is it's not me, right? You're probably asking yourself, is it me? Do I draw toxic people? Am I attracting of toxic people?
Right.
And the answer is
that's a common question.
Yeah, and the answer is it's not you, but it is your operating system, right? And unfortunately, we are often handed these systems. So it's not something that I had a choice about when I was a kid, right? But there were just some certain things about the world that I did not understand because I didn't have certain things in my childhood. And that handicapped me as an adult. I'm going to remove that word. That tied my hands as an adult. It made it very difficult for me to navigate adult relationships as a young adult, trying to figure out like what's out in the world. And unfortunately, in that very innocent time, there was a predator that found me, right?
Right.
And I didn't know enough to not be in that toxic relationship. So the good news is that you
good. There's good news.
Yeah, no, there is really good news. The good news is that, like all things, we figure out some things in childhood, and there are some things that we learn as adults, right? So if I did not learn this particular thing in childhood, like let's say I wanted to learn the piano, or I wanted to learn a different language. Now, would it be easier if somebody just gave me all those tools when I was a kid? 100%, it would be easier.
Yes, it would.
Are kids that have that kind of like investment of resources, like if someone has piano lessons for 50 years and I decide at 50 years old I'm going to start playing piano, are they going to be better than me at that? Probably.
Oh, that's a guarantee.
Guaranteed. Does that mean I can never learn how to play piano?
No.
But it does require a lot of time. It requires a lot of work. It requires some investment.
And requires you not to pay attention to that 50-year-old child who's a prodigy on the piano, and don't compare yourself to them.
Right. It's a completely different learning curve, and it is a learning curve. And part of it is first starting to have an awareness of the operating systems that help me and the operating systems that don't help me. And I really hope after Risa Tisa's experience that she is having some reflection about what operating systems brought that together. Not that, again.
Well, the good news is she's getting therapy.
Oh, she is getting therapy.
Yeah. She said that on GMA. That one thing that's really helping her get through it is doing therapy. And there is a lot of self-reflection.
Right.
It's, again, another reason why she says, I'm aware of all these red flags and that I was either ignoring or washing under the rug, because the ultimate desire to the thought of it versus the reality of it.
Well, and the other thing too, and I can't discount it enough, is that she also wanted to be married.
She really wanted to be married, and it was her turn.
And if there's a life milestone that you really, really want, that you haven't for some reason been able to manifest or engage in your life, that can be a really profoundly stressful and depressing situation to be in. So I can certainly understand it. I don't know. Did you used to have that kind of longing? I used to have a kind of longing. No?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know. You give me a look. I didn't know what the look meant.
Yeah. The I'm sorry.
This is
the
an
look,
audio. This is an
the
audio
look that I am giving you is I spent decades longing. I'm a good old fashioned hopeless romantic. So,
okay.
and having it never really blossom into anything
until
later in life, and did take its toll.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, longing was me.
Yeah.
Me, very much so.
Yeah. Me too.
Which is why by the time we got together, I was done.
You were done.
I had mentally made the decision. I'm like, you know what? I guess I'm just gonna be single forever. After my last girlfriend before you didn't work out, I went, oh, okay, I guess that's it. I tried.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in my 40s.
Mm-hmm.
That image you see, the romance stories you hear, those are for young folks. Or old people. So I'm in this window,
No, love fortunately can break through at any age, at any time. It has some different elements depending on your age. But no, love is available.
Yes.
New love is available at any age.
And I think we have an episode talking all about that.
We do.
About love at age. But this one we're talking about, so healing from a toxic. We talked about the toxic relationship.
We should. And the other thing we should do, and let us know if this is something you're interested in. We should talk about love as a young person. Like, how do you navigate that? Right.
Maybe we'll interview some young people.
Yeah, right. Let's maybe talk about love and young people.
And then we'll talk about the memories of it when we were young. Oh, when we were young and in love.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing I'm thinking about doing, and this is just if folks are interested, it can be really difficult to heal after a toxic or codependent relationship. I am putting together some mastermind classes for how to find healing, resilience, and restore hope and trust after toxic relationships. If there's enough interest, then I'll make this nationwide or even worldwide, depending on how much interest is there. But if you are interested, if you have been asking yourself these questions, is it me? Why do I keep finding myself in the same relationship? Am I in a toxic relationship? How would I even know if I'm in a toxic relationship? It feels toxic, but maybe it's just me. These are the kind of things that actually having some coaching to get an understanding of how to learn my operating system, of how to recognize when I am operating in a way that is not supportive of me, and how I can start to move in ways that are actually healthier, that then allow me to make better decisions that are more supportive of me. So if you're interested, I guess we will find a way to let us know. I'll probably just have a little waiting list going on until we can get this started. But if you're interested, let me know.
You can always reach out to us on any of our social medias. We're, at Rainbow Dreamcatcher, the Love Pod on Instagram, or hit us up at rainbowdreamcatchertlp at gmail.com. There are plenty of ways to get a hold of us. You can get a hold of us individually. We'll get out there. We'll make it happen. We'll let folks know. And if there's generates a big enough interest, just stay tuned here.
Yeah.
Join our Patreon community where we'll get messages and things in there. Go to rainbowdreamcatcherthelovepodcast.com. That'll take you directly to our Patreon page. You can join the community for free and stay up to date on all the episodes when they drop. And then any information or any workshops or things that are going down will also be posted there first.
So let's go back to Risa Tisa, because we only scratched the surface of this story, y'all. So they get together. They have this pandemic ship. He takes over all the bills. And then the lies start piling up. This is where she starts to get suspicious, but the world's now been created. She starts to get suspicious when he tells her he's going to buy her a house. which, hey, if we're, doing this thing together, we rocking together. Hey, let's get us a house. Let's go ahead and start this life together. So he took her around with a bunch of realtors.
They were shopping houses.
Went to a bunch of houses, looked at a bunch of houses. I understand it. I love looking at houses.
You do.
Even
that's a pastime that we have not done in a while.
We haven't done that for a while because, we've been doing some other things. But I tell you what, I love me a good open house, y'all. I love me a good comparative price. I love me looking around to be like, what's the market doing here? I don't know what the market does generally, but I like walking through houses. I really enjoy just seeing different decor, different layouts. I like houses.
Yeah.
I like houses. So I get it, and I would enjoy it. Unless, of course, at the end of that, if I wanted a house and I didn't get a house. And that's exactly what happened with Miss Risatisa.
Well, it was weird because she said, she was saying that they were looking at houses and they found one.
Mm-hmm.
She picked out the house,
mm-hmm.
went to put down the deposit on the house, fill out the paperwork.
It wasn't even the paperwork. He got the paper. I'm sorry. This is the part because it was killing me. So he shows her a document that says he is approved for $750,000 for a house. But he doesn't want to use that. He wants to pay it in cash. That was the first excuse, was that he wanted to pay it in cash. And so they were like, great, show us the cash. And he was like, nope. Show me the house contract first. And they were like, nope. Show me the cash first. And so they didn't get a house.
I was going to mention the detective work on Risatisa's part.
Yes!
Where there was paperwork for the house and his social security number on the documentation didn't match the social security number on the marriage certificate.
Right.
I'm not going to lie. I don't know your social security number.
Oh, interesting.
And I
don't know it by heart.
I don't know it by heart. I might know it if I saw it. I don't know that I would.
Well, but
I would know if I saw two different numbers.
Right. And I think she also recognized it because she used the first number because she was getting suspicious at this point. Because he told her he had played arena football. She couldn't find no records. I mean, all kinds of stuff. So she was getting suspicious. So she did a background check and then felt comforted because nothing came back on the background check on the first social security number. Right. On the first one. So she thought she'd done her due diligence. So again, people think of this like, how could you fall for this? And blah, blah. And I think that's why this story resonates with so many people. Because I think over the course of the 8 hours, she really does a great job of outlining the steps it's almost like a snare. There's an entrapment that takes place. And to see how the traps had been laid where, the things that make sense, okay, things that don't make sense don't fit into my world. And we have a bias that says if it doesn't fit, then that's what doesn't belong. Right? So, if someone came to me and said that you did something that was completely out of your character, if that didn't fit what I knew about you, I would think about that. And then I think that person's probably not telling me the truth. I mean, I would do some investigation, I'm sure, but I would know you well enough to know that doesn't fit. And so, like we all do, I'd say that doesn't fit.
I didn't bite that horse.
Right. And then what?
None.
Why are you, what?
None.
So, but I think that's why it has resonated with so many people because it is really hard to explain to people how you got into this really terrible situation. Because at the end, it seems so obvious, right? Like, I was looking at my old relationship. It was so obvious how terrible it was for such a long time. It was so obvious. But, there's that kind of walking along that brings you deeper and entangles you more.
Was there a point when you were like, when you recognized it wasn't great? Was there ever a moment when you were in it, recognized it was great, wasn't great, and you decided you were still going to make it work?
Yes. There were many moments like that.
Okay. I always wanted, having not been in such a toxic relationship.
Yes.
So that is a question I always have. And again, no judgment attached to it. I've always just been curious about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, definitely that was the case. There were a lot of times where things would happen. Part of it too is, a lot of it, when I say operating system, that includes belief systems, and that includes belief systems about things like marriage and partnership and till death do us part, persevering and sacrifice. There's a lot of things that kind of go into that. And we do have a narrative that I very naively held on to, which says that, like, I don't know, marriage is work, love is difficult, and sometimes you just have to work through difficult times, which is true for everyone.
Yeah.
The caveat, the thing they didn't tell me, was that if the other person is the one that's making it difficult, that doesn't count. You guys got to explain better. You got to explain better for the young folks. Right. If they're the ones that are being difficult, it does not count.
Right.
But I didn't know that. So I just thought, well, this is just the difficulty of being with another person, and the person I happen to be with just happens to be difficult.
And how did you heal from that?
So that was a long process. The first was to step away from the relationship. And I very rarely give folks any kind of directives about their relationship. When people come to sit with me, listen, they didn't ask me when they got into this relationship, so I don't know why they asked me about getting out of this relationship. Right? That's your decision. However, if you are experiencing toxicity in a relationship, you got to think about it like any kind of toxic poison. I can't think about healing from a toxic poison if I'm still inhaling it. Right?
Okay.
So the first thing I have to do is to get out of that toxic environment, which thankfully Risa Tisa has done. She has gotten out of that toxic environment. She has moved past. For some folks, that is not so easy. There can be a lot of entanglement. There can be children. There can be stalking. I mean, there's a lot that can happen at the end of these types of toxic spaces. Fortunately, Risa Tisa seems to be doing okay. But first, you got to get out of the toxic relationship. Once you are out of the toxicity, I think that the next focus has to be on how to get healthy. And I say that in all respects. Typically, these kinds of relationships are going to take a toll, not only mentally, but physically on the person.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of inflammation. There's a lot of, it really does trigger a lot of the chemical processes that can harm your body.
Right.
Cortisol and other stress hormones, to be constantly in a state of fight or flight, right?
That's not good for your body.
It can
it'll give you heart palpitations.
It can give you heart palpitations. It can create anxiety. It can create fatigue. It's a mental depression. There's a mental load, right? So these relationships, in addition to being toxic, are also just very difficult to navigate. Again, think about if I had to go through my whole day inhaling poison. Things that typically are going to be very simple are really difficult, right? Suddenly I can't seem to walk straight, and it's the same kind of process. So I encourage people in that first segment to, as opposed to trying to figure out what my operating system is at that point in time, we don't have enough distance at that point in time, right? To analyze something, I need distance. So the first thing I would do is focus on health. I want to get as healthy physically as I can, and I want to get as healthy mentally as I can. And so for me, when I sit down with folks in our masterclass, we talk about things like, how do we engage healthier eating patterns, right? we tend to find that oftentimes folks are up and down in this phase around food. If I don't have proper nutrition, it is really hard for me to fight any battle, right? And this is a battle, right? So as opposed to being like, I have to be like super vegan all of a sudden, which I guess is my thought of what the healthiest form of human being would be in terms of eating. I don't know why, but whatever, super vegan.
Because the word super is in it.
Because the word super and vegan are in it. Vegetables seem like a good thing to eat. It's just a matter of, if I don't have anything in my system, I can't raise myself off the floor. And if I can't raise myself off the floor, I can't get healthy. Right? So I want to raise the floor. I want to start hydrating. I want to start paying attention to how I'm eating. I want to give my body different forms of movement, right? Because it's not going to feel like it wants to move. It's going to feel very lethargic. I want it to start to move and get used to movement. I want to give it sunshine. I want to give it appropriate sleep. Oftentimes, going through difficult toxic relationship messes with our sleep processes. So I want to establish good sleep hygiene. I want to go to bed at the same time if I can, and wake up at the same time if I can. I want to make sure I get the adequate number of hours. I don't cheat myself in sleep in an effort to work more or clean, or I give myself the luxury of sleep. And once I get to a place where I am physically more sound, then I want to start to work on my social and mental and emotional health, right? That's where I want to maybe join a group. That's where I want to engage the therapist services.
Okay.
This is where I want to reach out to caring friends and loving family, right? Who can provide me with support as I move into this next phase of my life and identity, right? And then I can start to look at the operating systems, right? So it's a multi-stage process. And for some folks, and for me, which I was very fortunate, that also includes a loving relationship that allows you to heal throughout the relationship, as a part of the relationship.
Is that me?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, very much so. No.
Oh.
No, it's so cute. Anyway. Yeah, so there's no linear path to healing. It can take some folks will bounce right back. Other folks, it could take several years of really difficult, hard work to undo some of the damage. Sometimes, the damage is just like anything else, right? It's an injury that we'll carry, and we will learn to live with that injury. And
I will say, if you're a friend or loved one of somebody going through it, please don't be the person to say, "Aren't you over them yet?" Just don't be that person.
Don't be that person.
Don't be that person.
Don't be that person.
Because that's not helpful.
No.
At all.
No. You really want to give, if you're a friend of someone who's gone through this experience, the best way I can describe it, particularly if you have watched them go through this toxicity and you've been on the sidelines, like, why is this happening? Why are you with that person? Right? Like,
we all have those friends. We're very much could be the "I told you so."
Right. Don't be the "I told you so."
Don't say it.
Don't be the "I told you so." The best thing you can do as a friend or support of a person who is healing from a toxic relationship is try to be a soft place for them to land. And by that, I mean, whatever they need for you to catch at that moment, see if you can catch it. Right? Do they need just somebody to just hang out with? Do they need somebody to talk to?
Right.
Do they need someone to just get me out of the house and I just got to go do something? Wherever you can be a place for them to land and feel a good, solid grounding, that's what you can do as a friend.
Provide a sense of safety and security,
right?
Comfort, love, and compassion.
Absolutely. 100%. 100%.
Yeah. Those are some good steps.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So,
shall we get into our question of the week?
Oh, we can, but I also want to let people know, if you do want to watch this series, it's on TikTok. You can also probably find it, I think, on YouTube. Again, it is 8 hours, 52 segments. It's called Who the F Did I Marry?
Yeah.
At Risa Tisa. At Risa M. Tisa.
Risa M. Tisa is her TikTok handle.
So if you are interested in the saga of how one person went through and escaped a pathological toxic relationship, check it out.
And then comment on, let us know what if you've gone through the saga, or not personally, but I mean if you watched her story and followed her story, hit us up, tag us and let us know what you thought of it, and give us your opinion on where she went through and all that kind of stuff.
And if you have been in a toxic relationship and healed from that relationship, I'd love to hear how you healed, what steps you took, how long it took for you to heal, anything that you want to share that would be helpful to other folks. I think, again, this resonates for people because unfortunately, a lot of people are having the experience of being in very, very toxic relationships.
Yeah, so write in, let us know, and we'll and if you're okay with it, we'll read it on the air and we'll address it and talking about it there. And sometimes sharing your story can help other people heal theirs, and so you never know who is maybe going through the same thing you're going through. And lo and behold, all of a sudden now through Rainbow Dreamcatcher, the Love Podcast, you found a community of support,
right,
and comfort. And so we also would love to be a conduit for that as well.
Absolutely.
Today's question.
Okay.
This week's question comes from our friend Forrest, who says, "Why do empaths always end up with narcissists?"
This question. Okay.
May I start?
You start.
I
gotta think about this.
Yeah, the only thing I want to say about that question is I would like to warn people as you're asking questions, be wary of generalizations or absolutes. Not empaths don't always end up with narcissists. Right. They do. It happens. But also, I'm consider myself an empath, and my wife is not a narcissist.
I consider myself a narcissist.
Sometimes empaths are narcissists.
I do not.
And that's a fun journey.
Oh my!
But
no, actually, that's not true. No? Empaths are not narcissists because narcissists specifically do not have empathy.
Right. Yeah, so, there's no narcissistic empath.
There is no such thing as a narcissistic
no empathic narcissist.
There are no empathic narcissists.
That is an oxymoron.
It doesn't exist.
That's a good old-fashioned oxymoron.
Yeah.
Okay, but you're...
So given that caveat, so yes, I would first say that we cannot make those kind of generalizations. Without getting too much into narcissism and and empath, which people are going to have different definitions of what that means. Often in popular culture, things like narcissist and empath take on their own meaning. Right. For me, it has a very specific diagnostic application. And empath does not actually fit any diagnostic application. So they're kind of apples and oranges to me. That being said, when you look at relationship structures, there are two different kinds of ways that people, when you look at dyadic relationships, two people in a relationship, that relationship structure works. You've got symmetrical relationships and complementary relationships.
Okay.
Right? A symmetrical relationship is a relationship in which people, roles, interests are similar. Right? A complementary relationship is one in which they are, go ahead, say the word. Complementary, right? So they're like pieces of
free.
They're like pieces of a puzzle. They're like pieces of a puzzle, meaning that they fit together. And so the pairing that you're seeing between someone who is, I won't say narcissist, but let's say someone who is entitled and selfish, and a person who is nurturing and empathic, right? You will sometimes see that pairing because they have different roles, which allow them to function actually pretty well as a unit, given what both parties want.
Got it.
Right? So the narcissist wants somebody to pay attention to them and to nurture them and to give them everything they need and take care of them. Well, guess what?
That's what an empath does.
That's what an empath does. Now, unfortunately, the empath wants the same thing. They're probably not going to get that. But you can see why they would be complementary. Right?
Initially, yeah.
Now, here's the thing about this. Now, while I don't know whether narcissists and empaths get together, because there's, again, no data about that, what we do know is that there can be complementary personality disorders.
Okay.
So it's not unusual to get different kinds of narcissists that will get together, or to have folks that have different personality disorders that complement one another get together. So, for example, you would have someone with narcissistic personality disorder that would pair very nicely with someone that has dependent personality disorder.
Okay.
So there are complements of disorders that we sometimes see in pairings. Not that would be narcissistic and empath, but that would be kind of close,
right,
right to that. So, fun fact: personality disorders can work well together.
On a side note, the word compliment in our language
has various different meanings,
and it's insane.
Yeah. It's free. It's a nice thing to say.
It's a nice thing to say. It's matching.
Match or fitting.
Yeah.
Words, ladies and gentlemen.
English language. Well, thank you again to Forrest for providing that question.
Yeah, I hope that gave you an answer, and I hope I didn't poo-poo the question too much. I actually really enjoy the questions that folks send to me, and I don't mind talking about narcissism. I just like to be accurate.
Yeah, if you too have a question for Rainbow Dreamcatcher the Love Podcast, shoot us an email at rainbowdreamcatchertlp @gmail.com. You can also leave us a voice message if you go to rainbowdreamcatcher.com. It'll take you directly to our Spotify page where you can actually leave a voice message for us. We'll play it on the air and then answer it directly. You can also hit us up on the social medias, as I mentioned before, Instagram, at Rainbow Dreamcatcher the Love Pod. We'd be happy to hit you up. And you can also hit us up individually. Check us out on all the social medias and all that goodness.
All right. So this has been Rainbow Dreamcatcher the Love Podcast. Bye-bye.
Bye.